Welcome on into the Cougar Tracks Podcast, powered by KSLSports.com. I am your BYU insider, Mitch Harper. BYU football is officially back. The Cougars kicked off fall camp practices at the Zions Bank practice facility. The media got about 20 minutes of observation. You'll hear my commentary, my takeaways from that at BYU, because I was down there in Provo observing that heated quarterback battle, three-man race. Going to dive into that here on today's show. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, X, Mitch_Harper, and also follow KSL Sports on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, IG, X, wherever you go on social media, KSL Sports is there. And download the KSL Sports app so you can see these videos, subscribe to the podcast, wherever and however you're watching, listening. Appreciate you being on board today. It was a hot one at the practice facility. A little bit earlier start time. Typically day ones and BYU fall camp practices under Kalani have typically been like a media observation period, for example, around 4:30 p.m. We were there at observation around 11 o'clock in the morning. So not the peak heat of the day, which was a little bit of a nice relief as someone who lives too in Salt Lake County. Nice to drive down to Utah County at a normal time. Usually when it's afternoon, I'm leaving 2.5 hours early before an event. But it was great conditions and a good day for some football. And, of course, the quarterback battle took center stage. And Kalani Sitake, when he spoke to the media afterwards, after the 20-minute media observation, but a full extended practice, this was Kalani with the media discussing that quarterback battle.
I mean, there's competition all the time. Obviously, we had a quarterback competition last year, so we've been luckily the staff has been through quarterback competitions many times before, and so the goal is to try to get these guys in a situation where we can play football and see how they can function. And I thought they did a great job today. I mean, we watched the film and looked at everything. I mean, obviously that's going to get the eyeballs on the quarterback position first, but I thought overall this team competed really well today.
Is there a pecking order right now for the quarterback?
Well, I think just give them different, because I mean, it is different when you have a veteran group in front. So when you're going with the 1-0 line, it's trying to give them enough time with that so that they can actually get some protection. And then, it's just, but we expect the twos and the threes to make blocks too. So that's hard to do when you're going against a really good defense. And Jay's doing a great job with that defense. Today was a really good day for them. And so we just got to keep rolling. For the first day, I was really happy, obviously. I'm really pleased with the way the guys worked in the offseason, and we'll just keep building on that. But we have a lot of work to still accomplish.
That was BYU football head coach Kalani Sitake. We got a copy of the fall camp roster. You can see right here, 115 guys on the roster, which is great news. Some of the names to see on the roster, the lesser-known guys that maybe would have been that fringe cut deal because of the 105 that was expected to be into effect until Judge Wilkin in the House versus NCAA case said, hey, grandfather in the walk-ons. That was great. I think that was a good thing, and BYU was able to maintain a lot more players than maybe expected. Kalani said that they were sorting through the grandfathering of walk-ons, so that was noteworthy, I thought. A player that was noticeably absent, it wasn't shocking, but based on how he was talking on his podcast a couple of weeks ago, Hinckley Ropati, a running back, he was not listed on the roster, but everyone else for the most part expected to be there, and Kalani said as much, that everyone that they're expecting showed up and was there ready to go. Some quick tidbits from practice during the media observation. One thing that caught my attention, I'll get into the quarterback, I'll play some more of my takeaways and sound, but I think one thing that caught my attention that's going underrated a little bit because of the storyline of quarterback is that wide receiver. The first trio of wide receivers that we saw, Chase Roberts, senior leader, first team all Big 12 preseason selection. First time we saw him in practice this year since he suffered his injury against Colorado in the Alamo Bowl, that shoulder injury. So it's good to see Chase back. He did have a little bit of a bobble on a reception from Bear Bachmeier. JoJo Phillips getting the start once again. He was a mainstay with the first team offense during spring practices, in large part due to Chase being gone, but did enough in spring to clearly show that day one of fall camp, he's still part of that first team offense. And then Cody Hagan, sophomore, I put him down as one of my 5 guys that could surprise this season in 2025. It's time. Cody Hagan is a special football player. We're going to see that special skill set, I think, on display much sooner than later for this BYU football team. So that was an underrated tidbit. Here's some more takeaways and observations that I had from Camp Cougar down in Provo earlier today. BYU football fall camp day 1 is a wrap. Mitch Harper here with KSLSports.com. All eyes on the quarterback battle here at Camp Kalani, Camp Cougar, BYU training camp, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't feel like fall, obviously, with 90-plus degree temperatures, and I made the grave mistake of wearing a black shirt today, but I digress. BYU had a productive day here at the Zions Bank practice field here at the student-athlete building. The media got to watch about 20 minutes of practice, the final 20 minutes, and we were on the balcony watching. Pretty good vantage point to kind of see all 11, all 22 on the field at once, and good insight into this team, a first glimpse of what this 2025 team is going to be. And the quarterback battle is going to command all the headlines. Jake Retzloff, obviously, he's off to Tulane. He's settled in to team meetings now in the Big Easy. Kind of surreal to see Jake in those meeting rooms at Tulane, because a few months ago, he was here at this building at the end of spring ball saying he wanted to be a Heisman Trophy finalist, win the Heisman for BYU, lead them to new heights. Now he's gone. BYU's got to replace that on the heels of an 11-2 season. But BYU feels pretty confident that they can find that QB1. The 3 guys contending for the job, of course, Trayson Bourguet, McKay Hillstead, both returning from last season, and then Bear Bachmeier, true freshman, coming in from Stanford. During the media observation portion, in the 20 minutes that the media saw, the first quarterback that we saw take snaps was Trayson Bourguet. He was with the first-team offense. The next quarterback was McKay Hillstead with what appeared to be the second-team offense. And then the third quarterback to take snaps was Bear Bachmeier, who was with what looked to be the first-team offense. Very interesting to see, and it sets the tone for a 3-man race contending for this job. I asked Kalani Sitake in post-practice if Trayson and Bear getting the first-team snaps was indication that they're the top 2 quarterbacks right now. Kalani said that all 3 quarterbacks got first-team reps during the entire practice. It was just what Kalani said during the media observation. They had Trayson and Bear take the first-team reps. It was a mixed bag from the quarterbacks. You know, I think when you look at this quarterback battle and what this could potentially become, it's going to be maybe that way throughout the entire season. I think people have underestimated the loss of Jake Retzloff to this team. Yes, Jake was a mixed bag, and there's no questioning that. He had 12 interceptions a season ago, which led the Big 12. It was tied for the lead in interceptions. It was up and down, but there was still a lot of good last season from Jake Retzloff. You don't go 11-2 without good quarterback play. Was it great? No. But, you know, can you get to that level of good again? And the experience factor is just not there with this group. Now, Trayson Bourguet and McKay Hillstead have both started FBS games. You know, Trayson highlighted that in his post-practice media availability, talking about how he started at Western Michigan. McKay Hillstead started games at Utah State. Then you got the young gun in Bear Bachmeier, who's going through his first year as a collegiate player, coming from the farm at Stanford and now to BYU. Trayson Bourguet, in his first, set of snaps, he threw an interception to Raider Mooney, and not the greatest decision. It was a pick, and that's of note, because you can, by comparison, the first-team quarterback in spring only threw 1 interception. That was Jake Retzloff. Taking care of the football will be at a premium for this quarterback unit to win this job. He also had a kind of overthrown ball, too, to one of his receivers as well, Trayson did. But he also had some moments that were some pretty good throws, too. But the interception probably is the biggest takeaway coming out of the media observation portion. McKay Hillstead, mixed bag as well. Some low throws in the screen passes. There was also a nice pass near the sideline to Tiger Bachmeier in his second set of snaps in practice. A little bit of mixed results. I thought Bear Bachmeier looked pretty good. I don't want to say he was the best quarterback, because there was a low thrown ball basically into the turf, a screen to JoJo Phillips from Bear as well. He did have a nice pass on a post route from Chase Roberts. Chase, who making his return after recovering from a shoulder injury that he suffered against Colorado in the Alamo Bowl, he kind of bobbled the pass,
and then gathered it, hauled it in, and took care of possession. So, but that was kind of a note with Chase to kind of bobble that a little bit. But it was a nice ball from Bear Bachmeier. You see the ability from Bear and his talent and his skill of what he can be. And he's very mature, he's got great presence in that pocket, got good size. He looks the part. And, is it enough to say he's going to be QB1 right now? I'd still kind of wait and see. But, why not give him every chance possible to maybe win this job? Because I think long term, wouldn't it be a bad thing if he took off and became QB1 for BYU? But Trayson Bourget and McKay Hillstead have their moments. I think it's just a consistency issue right now with these QBs and kind of getting into the rhythm and really becoming consistent day after day, stacking those days, as kind of Kevin Young likes to talk about in basketball. I think that's going to be something that's key for these BYU football quarterbacks. Some other kind of tidbits and takeaways beyond the quarterback position for BYU day one fall camp here at the Zions Bank practice field. I thought the offensive line caught my attention. Isaiah Jada continues to anchor the left tackle spot. Andrew Gentry, first glimpse of him in action since transferring in from Michigan. Remember, he was out during spring practices. He held down the right tackle position for BYU, and Kalani gave him some praise in post-practice of the talent that Andrew Gentry has. And with Gentry at right tackle, they then slid Austin Leausa to right guard. He was primarily handling right tackle during spring. And then at right guard in spring was primarily Kyle Safaricik, a transfer from Southern Utah. He's a versatile offensive lineman who could play really any 5 spots on the line. Saw him a little bit at backup center behind Bruce Mitchell. So I thought that was of note there for BYU. I thought the defensive line, the interior, is going to be really good. Keanu Tanavasa, John Talmoipea were the top 2 today. Did see Justin Kirkland off to the side. Didn't see him in team portion today. Going back to the offensive line, Kalani Sitake says he feels like they've got 9 guys that could be starter caliber along that offensive front. TJ Woods was down on the field today in practice wearing a t-shirt that said Big Dog Business. They got some big dogs up front on that offensive line. It is a huge, huge line. I think they're going to be pretty good for BYU. And I think that's one of the positive things for whoever this quarterback's going to be. They're inheriting an offense that's got some established, proven commodities. Can those proven commodities become, all conference type guys? That's going to be the challenge in front of them. But even Bear Bachmeier talked about the offensive personnel. He feels LJ Martin's the best running back in college football and the skill position that they have around him. This is a really good offense in terms of the personnel. I think it's just all kind of bringing it together and developing that chemistry because, again, Jake Retzlaff's situation, that civil lawsuit was filed May 21st. And then, he's officially gone in July. That was kind of the time frame where you're really zeroing in on player-ran practices, getting that chemistry down. That goes out the door, and now it's, 3 quarterbacks vying for those reps, that attention. So it's going to take some time, and I think that there's got to be patience. And to me, I think it'll be interesting to see if this quarterback battle gets weeded down from 3 to 2. I don't expect a starter to be announced before Portland State 1 month from today. But to trim it down to 2, I think would be a significant development in this quarterback race. And it'll be interesting to see if, in fact, they do that. But all in all, it was a productive day for day 1 of fall camp practices. Some of the, true freshman personnel, some new faces on the roster in general. But, BYU will have more availability coming up on Friday. We'll hear from some of the coordinators here at fall camp. But we'll have full coverage of BYU football fall camp here from Provo on KSLSports.com, KSL News Radio, the KSL Sports Zone, and KSL 5 TV. So download the KSL Sports app. You can see all that coverage. And also subscribe to the Cougar Tracks Podcast. Talk to you next time here from Provo here on KSLSports.com.
There you go. That was good stuff. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you enjoyed some of my commentary and takeaways. Some additional notes, too. But I forgot to mention position change. Preston Rex, he goes to running back from safety. I thought that was kind of interesting. Preston's you got a talented athlete, and he was, both sides of the ball in high school. I'm kind of intrigued by that thought. That was the only position change that I could see from the position changes. Lucky Finau, he was at running back last year, and that was it from the position changes of note. Some of the number changes as well. I thought Logan Latui getting number 7 at defensive end, that looks pretty legit. That's a big-time number for a DN, man. That's like saying, I'm a playmaker. I'm going to be a dude. I kind of like that. Single-digit DN. I'm on board. Sign me up. Let's see it, Logan. Falatel Satawal, I believe, moved to his high school number 11. And then Isaiah Jada, of course, he remains number 71. Last year, he was number 50. Those are some of the notable number changes. Tay Nakua also, he made this change in spring, but goes from 45 to number 0 as well. And then, of course, McKay Hillstead. He was last year number 15. This year, he's number 3, which I believe was the number that he wore at Sky Ridge High School. So some cool number changes there. That's always kind of a fun thing to see on day one of camp because you just get that fresh new roster. And more than ever, with all the player movement and changes, it's kind of just fun to see the official numbers, the official heights, weights, everything in between. There was a new phase 2 added to the roster. Kafusi Pafoke, defensive tackle. I forgot to bring him up in some of my observations. 6'3", 345-pound defensive tackle from Weber State. He was getting a little bit of run, too, in the team portion. I thought that was interesting. Massive size from Pafoke. So BYU's got big-bodied D tackles, man. We talked about it in the fall camp preview. They are huge in the interior. Now it's just a matter of living up to the lofty expectations that have been placed on them, and they're going to have to embrace it here. A new thing I wanted to introduce this year on Cougar Tracks with fall camp breakdowns, doing obviously more video than ever before here on Cougar Tracks, and we'll have more information coming up soon with Cougar Tracks, so make sure to stay tuned to that and subscribe to the podcast if you could, audio format or the video podcast on YouTube. But wanted to break down the B-roll from any fall camp practices. And what this entails, if you're not familiar with the term B-roll, it's just kind of footage that helps accompany a TV shot. BYU provides this to the media because, again, we don't get to see the full practice. We get a little bit of some packaged highlights and just some footage of the coaches, players, maybe some of the aesthetic around the environment that they're in that given day. It's really cool. I think it's always kind of fun stuff to look at and observe. And so what I'm going to do, I've uploaded it here to my board. I haven't watched it. I'm just going to give you my kind of raw thoughts watching it. Again, this footage is provided by BYU Athletics. Brandon Despain does a great job for BYU. He's the cameraman behind all things BYU Athletics. So they provide this footage. And I just kind of want to react to what I'm watching here in the B-roll. Now, I understand for the audio listeners, you're going to need to check out the video feed on YouTube to see this footage that I'm talking about, or you can go check it out, I think, on BYU Football's X account or Instagram. Follow along with me, and I'll share my thoughts as we roll along here. So let's fire it up. Let's see what this is all about, this B-roll from day one of BYU football fall camp. And I haven't watched it. I'm just going to give you my raw thoughts of what I'm seeing and observing here on this B-roll footage. So we got players running here. Let's see. Got number 55, Austin Leusa. He was swung in at right guard. There's Kalani Sitake. 10th year leading the BYU football program. It's hard to believe. I don't know why that's so surreal to me, but Kalani's doing a really good job. This is his program, the imprint that he's wanted on this program. McKay Hillstead. Trayson Bourget rocking the green uniform and slinging the rock. I think with McKay and Trayson, Bear Bachmeyer as well, Emerson Gauman, we did not see him in the team portion, Bountiful High, but I think, again, these quarterbacks are going to give you some good. Trayson Bourget opened up the practice with a nice ball to JoJo Phillips. These guys had some moments, but they also had some downs. And look, there's a high bar for what BYU wants at the quarterback position. They know what good quarterback play is. Look, Aaron Roderick, Matt Mitchell, they know what good QB play is. They're going to expect a high standard. Jack Kelly, big-time playmaker. Watching these guys. Ephraim Asiati. Look, you can see he's adding a little bit of weight to his frame. Like to see that. Keanu Tanavasa, leader in the interior of the defensive line. He is going to be a mainstay. The offensive line, Kalani Sitake said they've got 9 deep. as I noted earlier. I think that's interesting as far as starters go. And Andrew Gentry, good to see him out on the field. Right tackle, he's probably going to be the starter. He's been healthy for a little while now, really since May. He's been good to go and is set to really maybe anchor that right tackle spot. But BYU is, I think, in a good place as a team. You look at the personnel in some of these clips, L.J. Martin, Bear Bachmeier saying he could be the best running back in college football. I think L.J. Martin's due for a huge year. Isaiah Glasgow is one of the best linebackers in the country, in my opinion. How that guy didn't get all Big 12 preseason honors, it's insane to me. But there is a lot of talent around this quarterback. And I think that's one of the big things that I look at with this team is that, yes, the quarterback position is a big question mark. I think they'll find an answer. I'd like to think. But they've got personnel around them that can uplift them. And if they take care of the football, they're going to be in a good place. You look at the way L.J. Martin's running, he looks as healthy as he's been in a while. And I think that's an exciting thing for BYU. It's good to see in that clip there, JoJo Phillips gets a grab, but Marcus McKenzie in coverage too. Remember last year, Marcus was banged up quite a bit. And we had a red shirt last year. 2 years ago, he was an elite gunner for BYU on special teams. We saw a glimpse there of Tiger Bachmeier. He's going to be a real interesting talent to see how BYU utilizes him. Number 86, Cole Clement. That's the B-roll footage there. Not too much to glean from that. Again, it's fun little content, it's fun little footage to watch. I just want to kind of watch it raw and see what that entailed, and appreciate BYU for providing that content. And honestly, I enjoy going down there to practice and watching, 20 minutes. Like, I'd love to watch the full thing. I'd love to break it all down. I remember back in the day with fall camp practices, media members would have in-depth recaps of play-by-play. Heck, me as a kid, I'd go down to football practices with my dad. Fall camp used to be open. I miss those days. I miss that time when you could piece daily depth charts together and really have a clear sense of where it stands, and you could do play counts and snap counts on quarterbacks and things like that. I used to do that as a kid. So like going to fall camp and not seeing like the entire thing, it's a bummer. I kind of romanticize a little bit of the past, but hey, it's better than nothing. And I'll take the 20 minutes. We appreciate that and appreciate the B-roll footage too as well. Good stuff there. But I was noting Cole Clement, tight end, 86, out of Springville. Interesting player. 6'4", 240 pounds. BYU's tight ends, I think, are a little bit better than they're trending up from where I expected them going into camp. Remember my fall camp preview, it was a big question mark position. Kean Need was kind of the guy that I look at to be that number 2 tight end, but I kind of put an asterisk by that because he's not a traditional pass-catching tight end. We did see him at times with the first-team offense, and I think he's going to be more of a blocker. He doesn't have many receiving yardage in his college football career to this point. But if you pair him up with Carson Ryan, and then you look at the personnel that BYU's got at wide receiver, it's a nice grouping of personnel for Hillstead, Bourget, Bachmeier, whoever it is, to throw the rock to. Before we wrap up the show today, some of my thoughts, again, coming out of day one on the QB battle. Look, I still would give the edge to McKay Hillstead slightly. I think McKay, and I really want to see him get first-team reps. And Kalani noted it in his clip that I played earlier about playing with the first-team offensive line. On the surface, that sounds very simple and just coach speak. But it's really a good point because all of spring, we did not see Bourget, Hillstead operate with that first-team group. And I've talked about that here on the show a handful of times, but that is something that I'd like to think can help lift up the play of some of those guys. It's a little bit different level when you're competing with the first-team guys instead of the second stringers. But the second stringers obviously got to be really good too. I was still, to this point through day one, I would still give a slight edge to McKay Hillstead, but I thought Bear Bachmeier was really good. I thought Trayson Bourget had some moments too. It's just that interception, those are big. Those matter in a quarterback battle where every throw is being analyzed, every snap counts. They're all critical. Got to take care of the football. So that's a moment that probably Trayson's going to want back when he watches that film. He'll probably analyze that and see where they go from there. But I think it was noteworthy that, the media's first glimpse, Trayson's QB1. So again, I think this is a real quarterback battle where this could go any which way. I talked with Jaron Hall earlier this week, and if you haven't listened to it, go check it out here on the podcast feed. Jaron, when he navigated his battle, folks like myself, it was just kind of like, well, yeah, he's got to win. Like, he's already got starting experience. He was dynamite in 2019 against Utah State. You got to see what that guy's got, what else he's got to offer. And sure enough, he won. And he was kind of decisive, honestly. I remember in day one of camp, I remember uploading a podcast here on this feed. Maybe I have to go look back at it, but it was like, I think the job's already won, 2021. Whereas this battle, I feel like it's pretty open. And last year, there were moments where it felt like, man, Bohannon looks really good. Jake then closed strong, and then he won the job and pulled away. This one's really interesting because they took over the spotlight, these three, in May. And that's typically not the spot where you want to establish who your QB1 is going to be, but that's what BYU is faced with. The good thing for BYU football is that they have had a lot of success navigating quarterback battles. Kalani, Roderick, they have a ton of experience with that. And again, BYU's best teams have typically started with a quarterback battle to begin a season. We'll have more coverage from BYU football fall camp on KSLSports.com. Written content, podcast content, videos, social media, you name it. A bunch of BYU football content throughout the year. Subscribe to this podcast on audio form on Apple, Spotify, Pocket Cast, wherever you get your podcast, and the video podcast as well on YouTube, and wherever you get your videos. Leave that 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a ton. I'll talk to you next time here on the Cougar Tracks Podcast. It's powered by KSLSports.com.